Respect isn't something you ask for. It's not something you demand. It's not even something you can always explain in words, because real respect is felt before it's spoken. It's the quiet shift in the air when someone walks into a room and doesn't need to say a word, and yet everyone knows they matter. It has nothing to do with power in the traditional sense, not money, not fame, not physical dominance. It's something older, something deeper, something psychological. Respect is a kind of energy, and it starts from within. People don't respect you because you talk louder, or interrupt, or posture for attention. They respect you when your presence speaks before your mouth does. And that presence comes from clarity, from knowing who you are, what you accept, what you will not tolerate, and, most importantly, what you don't need. Psychologist Carl Jung once wrote, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And when you're becoming that person, unapologetically, unshakably, others start to notice. Not because you beg for validation, but because you don't. There's a paradox in how respect works. The more you chase approval, the more it runs from you. But the moment you stop chasing and start embodying, it starts to follow. So, in this episode, we break down 5 moments, 5 precise shifts that command respect without aggression, manipulation, or pretending. They're subtle, but powerful. Psychologically rooted, philosophically sound, and immediately felt. Let's begin. First, the first impression, animal instincts. Before you speak, before you smile, before a single word leaves your mouth, the room has already decided what you are. This is not superstition. It's not some shallow social rule. It's ancient wiring, built into your nervous system, and into theirs. Every room you walk into is a psychological jungle. The people in it are scanning fast, instinctive, silent. Not with malice, but with evolutionary urgency. They are reading your body, your pace, your silence. They are asking questions they're not even aware of. Is this person a threat? Is this person safe? Do they follow or do they lead? Are they someone I need to impress? Or someone I can dismiss? And the terrifying part? They decide in seconds. Before you speak. Before you get to explain yourself. Before they know your job, your beliefs, your stories. It's primal. Brain, your nervous system broadcasts before your voice does. You are always broadcasting, even in silence. Especially in silence. Your posture. Your breathing. Your eyes. The way your shoulders settle. The tempo of your steps. These are all signals. You walk in slouched and hurried? You're broadcasting submission. You smile too much, laugh too easily, nod too often? You're broadcasting need. You speak too fast? You're broadcasting fear. And everyone, without knowing why, begins to categorize you. The human brain loves shortcuts. First impressions are its fastest algorithm. And unless you interrupt that process by taking control of your energy, it becomes the lens people use to view you forever. Poprin's animal instincts never left us. You are an animal. No matter how refined your manners, how complex your ideas, you are still, fundamentally, a biological being built to survive in groups. And so are the people around you. In the animal kingdom, when two creatures meet, they assess. Is this a predator? A mate? A rival? A leader? A weakling? Humans do the same. In offices, in classrooms, in parties, on dates, in interviews. In every room, status is being sorted. And you don't get to choose not to play. But you do get to choose how you show up. Direct hit, the art of not performing. People often confuse confidence with performance. They think it means exaggerating. Loudness, smiles, jokes, over-explaining, oversharing. But real confidence is the opposite of performing. It's presence without apology. It's being fully in your body, breathing deeply, speaking slowly, holding silence without panic. It's the kind of energy that says, I don't need to convince you of anything. I am what I am. Take it or leave it. That energy commands respect. Speaking head, speak less, speak slower. One of the quickest ways to lose respect is to try too hard to earn it. You talk too much. You speak too fast. You fill every silence. You're trying to prove you're worth listening to, and that desperation leaks through. But here's what real presence looks like. Speaking a little slower than people expect. Leaving space after your sentences. Holding your gaze a second longer than necessary. Not reacting too quickly. Not laughing just to fill space. Being okay with pauses. Stillness. Calm. The psychology behind this is simple. When you don't chase connection, people start to lean in. When you're not trying to be impressive, people start to feel your gravity. That's the paradox of power. The less you seek validation, the more people offer it to you. Person lotus position, don't overshare. Don't overexplain. Here's something most people don't realize. Oversharing is a survival tactic. It's the nervous system saying, "Please don't judge me, here's everything about me so you'll like me." It's disguised as authenticity, but often it's fear in costume. Raw psychology teaches us, when people explain too much, they're usually hiding insecurity. When people reveal too much too soon, they're often looking for safety through connection. But safety, in high-status dynamics, comes from mystery, not exposure. People respect what is measured, not what is dumped out emotionally without filters. So stop trying to be understood immediately. Let people earn your layers. Speak clearly, then stop. Let your words land. Brain first impressions are hard to erase. Here's the real kicker. The brain anchors early impressions. Once someone sees you as submissive, needy, ungrounded, it's very hard to undo. You will be fighting the inertia of their unconscious categorization from that first moment. That's why it's crucial to be intentional with your first few minutes. Because you are always either creating gravity or giving it away. You're either pulling people into your frame or getting pulled into theirs. Moai posture, breath, stillness. Want the fastest physical shift? Straighten your spine. Breathe into your stomach, not your chest. Move slowly. Hold your ground. These cues, though simple, are read instantly. People see a calm person with grounded breathing and steady movement and think, this person is used to being respected. Why? Because those who are respected often have no need to rush or flinch. Those who are constantly disrespected develop tells, speed, fidgeting, shallow breath, darting eyes. Change the tell. You change the energy. You change the reaction. Brain summary, the psychology of presence. Let's tie it all together. People are animals scanning for social rank. Your body speaks louder than your words. Slow down. Breathe deep. Stay still. Don't perform. Don't overshare. Don't seek approval. Let silence work in your favor. Let your gravity rise through stillness and control. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you embody that without rush, without panic, without performance, people feel it. And they respect it. Because respect doesn't start when people understand you. It starts when you understand yourself and show up accordingly. Second, when someone interrupts you, dominance play. When someone interrupts you, understanding and mastering the dominance play. In conversations, whether personal, professional, or public, interruptions often feel like small annoyances. Someone cuts you off mid-sentence, interjects their opinion, or simply talks over you. Many people react with a nervous chuckle, a polite nod, or by quietly backing down. It seems harmless enough. But in truth, these moments are rarely accidental. They are often tests, subtle, psychological maneuvers designed to establish hierarchy. This behavior is what communication experts and behavioral psychologists refer to as a dominance play. The power dynamics behind interruption. When someone interrupts you, especially in a group setting, it's frequently not because they are overly excited or lack self-awareness. Rather, they are checking to see whether they can take control of the conversational flow. It's an unspoken question. Can I override you without consequence? If you let the interruption slide, if you smile awkwardly, lose your train of thought, or abandon your point entirely, they have their answer. You've signaled that their voice holds more weight. The shift in control is subtle, but real. In high-stakes environments, corporate meetings, debates, negotiations, or even social gatherings where status is fluid, this dynamic can be consequential. Repeated interruption without resistance can reinforce a perceived lower status. Over time, others may begin to defer to the interrupter more than to you, simply because they've seen them dominate airtime. How most people react, and why it doesn't work. Most people react to interruptions in one of three ways. They stop talking entirely. This is the most common response. The speaker yields the floor out of politeness, discomfort, or uncertainty. They laugh or smile it off. This masks the discomfort, but does little to restore control. It may even encourage future interruptions. They try to keep talking over the interrupter. This can lead to a verbal tug-of-war, escalating tension, and making both parties appear unprofessional or emotionally reactive. None of these strategies address the core issue, the loss of conversational authority, the power of the pause, a better response. Instead of reacting emotionally or passively, the most effective response is simple and composed. You stop. You wait. You make them feel the silence. Then, in a calm, steady voice, you say, "I'll continue when you're done." This response is not aggressive. It doesn't raise your voice or challenge the other person emotionally. Instead, it signals strength, boundaries, and self-respect. It sends a message. I value what I have to say, and I won't allow you to bulldoze it. And crucially, it does this without confrontation. Why this works? It disarms the interrupter. People who use interruption as a dominance tactic often rely on the assumption that you won't challenge them. Your pause breaks that expectation. It regains the room's attention. Silence is powerful. When you pause and look directly at the interrupter, others in the room notice. Their attention shifts back to you. It reinforces your authority. Remaining calm under pressure always signals leadership. You're not flustered or reactive, you're in control. It sets a precedent. People will think twice before interrupting you again. The difference between control and anger. One of the most important distinctions here is between control and anger. Responding with sarcasm, visible irritation, or a raised voice can backfire. It frames you as emotionally reactive and possibly insecure. But calm, poised resistance, that is power. The phrase, "it's not anger, it's control," captures this idea perfectly. It's not about dominating the other person. It's about not allowing them to dominate you. Examples in action. Let's walk through a few real-world examples to illustrate how this plays out. Scenario 1. The business meeting. You're presenting your project update when a senior colleague cuts in with their own opinion, mid-sentence. Wrong response. You stop and let them speak, then awkwardly say, "As I was saying." Right response. You pause, make eye contact, and say, "I'll continue when you're done." Then resume speaking. This moment can define how the rest of the team perceives your confidence and leadership. Scenario 2. The panel discussion. You're on a panel, and another speaker keeps interjecting before you can finish a thought. Wrong response. You raise your voice to compete, making it feel like an argument. Right response. You calmly stop mid-sentence, wait, and then say, "Please go ahead. I'll continue after." Then finish your point without rushing. This shows professionalism and control, while indirectly spotlighting the other person's lack of decorum. Scenario 3. Social conversations. Even in casual conversations, interruptions can shift perceived dominance. For example, during a group dinner, someone consistently cuts you off. Wrong response. Shrinking back and letting others take the floor. Right response. Pause. Smile slightly. Then say, "I'll jump back in when you're done," with relaxed confidence. You don't need to escalate, but you also don't fade into the background. Setting long-term boundaries. If someone repeatedly interrupts you, it may be worth addressing the pattern outside the heat of the moment. In a private conversation, you can say something like, "I've noticed that when I'm speaking, you often jump in before I finish. I value our conversations, but I'd appreciate being able to finish my thoughts before we switch." Framing it this way avoids blame while clearly establishing a boundary. Final thoughts. Owning your voice. In a world where people compete not just for attention, but for influence, your ability to hold the floor matters. Your words, your time, and your voice are valuable. When someone tries to interrupt, it's not always just bad manners, it may be a quiet bid for control. You don't need to fight. You don't need to raise your voice. All you need to do is pause, look them in the eye, and say, "I'll continue when you're done." Then you finish what you were saying. That's when the game shifts. Third, jokes and humiliation. The laughing sacrifice. There's a quiet violence that happens in groups. It doesn't look like aggression. It doesn't involve fists, shouting, or threats. It wears a smile. It hides behind laughter. And it always asks one thing of you: don't ruin the vibe. You've seen it. You've felt it. You may have even been it. There's always one person in every group who becomes the ritual sacrifice. The one everyone laughs at. The one whose mistakes become punchlines. The one whose insecurities are offered up for group entertainment. And the cruelest part? They're expected to laugh along with it. Performing art's the mask of "it's just a joke." You hear it all the time. Relax, it's just a joke. Don't be so sensitive. We're just playing around. But dig a little deeper and you'll find this isn't about humor. It's about power. Because the moment someone makes you the punchline and you laugh along to stay included, you've entered a social transaction. You've traded your dignity for belonging. You've said, "I'll let you humiliate me as long as you keep me around." That's the exact moment you become the laughing sacrifice. We'll face every group has a hierarchy. Human beings are tribal. Even today, in modern clothes and urban offices, our brains still operate like wolves in a pack. Every group sorts itself into roles: leaders, followers, rebels, outcasts, and yes, the clown. Not the funny clown, the submissive clown. The one who absorbs everyone else's tension with self-deprecation. And the terrifying truth is, once you're cast in that role, it sticks. Unless you interrupt it. Unless you refuse to laugh. Unless you let the room feel the tension they're trying to avoid. Clown, face the cost of laughing at yourself. Self-deprecating humor can be powerful if you're in control. If you know you're secure and choose to laugh at yourself, it can be magnetic. But when it's used to preemptively soften blows, to deflect attention, to hide discomfort, it becomes a weapon against yourself. People notice. They notice when you smile while your body tenses. They notice when your laughter is a little too fast, too forced. They notice when you become safe to ridicule because you've shown you won't push back. And once they know that, the barbs get sharper. The jokes get darker. You become the person everyone tests their boundaries on. Muted speaker silence, your sharpest weapon. Here's what most people won't tell you. You don't need to fight back. You don't need to insult them back. You don't need to raise your voice or storm off. You just need to stop laughing. When someone crosses the line, when they throw a joke that targets your wound, your story, your dignity, you don't perform. You let the smile drop. You say, "That's not funny." Or you say nothing. Just look at them. Let the silence spread like ink in water. That discomfort? That's power recalibrating. That's the moment they realize you have boundaries. And boundaries are the birthplace of respect. Brain social frames and power games. What's really happening here is a battle of frames. Who controls the emotional tone of the room? Who decides what's funny, what's playful, what's serious? The one who commands the frame commands the respect. When you laugh at a joke that insults you, you're accepting their frame. I'm the joke. I'm the weaker one. I don't get to decide when enough is enough. But when you refuse to laugh, when you hold stillness in the face of mockery, you signal something radical. I define the line. I control my worth. I will not sacrifice my self-respect for group approval. I people watch how you let others treat you. There's a psychological law most people miss. People don't judge you by what you say. They judge you by what you tolerate. So when someone mocks you and you play along, the room learns. They're okay being at the bottom. But when someone mocks you and you hold your ground, the room learns. There's a line. This person values themselves. And it's not about overreacting. It's not about being humorless. It's about sending a clear social signal. I will not be disrespected, even in the form of a joke. That signal earns you more than just silence. It earns respect. Because deep down, we all respect the person who doesn't need to perform to stay included. Scroll ancient social scripts. Throughout history, in every tribe, every court, every dinner table, jokes have been used as weapons. Not all jokes are harmless. Some are coded tests. Subtle power plays disguised as humor. The one who laughs first loses. The one who can't sit in silence surrenders. But the one who can hold the discomfort without flinching, they rise. As Nietzsche once wrote, he who has a why to live for can bear almost anyhow. Your why must include your self-respect. Because if the cost of inclusion is your own dignity, that's a deal you never want to make. Stop sign boundaries over bravado. It's tempting to fight back with ego, to roast them harder, to clap back, to show you're not weak. But bravado is just another mask. It's reactive. It's loud. It's often insecure. Boundaries are quiet. They don't need performance. They just exist, firm, visible, unapologetic. When you calmly make it clear you won't play the fool, you rise in social gravity. Because people trust those who respect themselves. And they test those who don't. Balance, scale, final reflection. So here's the raw truth. You are being watched not for your jokes, but your reactions. The way you handle mockery sets the tone for how others treat you. Don't fear discomfort. Use it. Let it signal your standards. You don't need to get angry. You just need to stop laughing. Boundaries speak louder than bravado. Stillness speaks louder than performance. The person who can say, "That's not funny," without flinching, even when the whole room laughs, becomes the person the room starts to respect. Not because they're scary. Not because they're loud. But because they refuse to trade dignity for belonging. And that is power. Fourth, asking a question in response. The mirror defense. In every conversation, especially in environments where people are playing subtle power games, there's a form of hostility that hides behind a smile. It's not overt. It's not loud. But it stings all the same. It's passive aggression. You've probably felt it before. A colleague makes a backhanded comment about your work, a friend slips a jab into a joke, or someone offers a compliment that feels more like a critique. These are attacks disguised as niceties, delivered with just enough ambiguity to allow for plausible deniability. Oh, you're finally on time. Wow, I didn't expect you to pull that off. You're actually smarter than you look. These comments are laced with cowardly aggression. The speaker wants to deliver a blow, social, emotional, or psychological, but without being held accountable for it. And that's what gives passive aggression its power. But here's the truth, it only works when you let it pass unchallenged. Most people don't confront it because it's veiled. They feel the sting, but they hesitate. Did they mean that the way it sounded? Am I overreacting? And in that hesitation, the moment is lost. The aggressor escapes, unscathed and often emboldened. So what can you do? You hold up the mirror. Introducing the mirror defense. The mirror defense is deceptively simple. It consists of just one question. What did you mean by that? This is a shift, a psychological reversal. You're no longer the one absorbing the discomfort, you're giving it back. By calmly and directly asking the person to explain their comment, you force their words into the open. And here's what happens next. Most people fold. Why? Because when sarcasm, snark, or subtle disrespect is exposed to direct scrutiny, it loses its power. Passive aggression thrives in shadows and suggestion. But truth demands clarity, and clarity is the enemy of manipulation. Why it works. The psychology behind the mirror. This approach is rooted in some of the most fundamental principles of interpersonal psychology. It shifts the power dynamic. Most people instinctively go into defense when attacked, even subtly. But by asking a question, you take control of the exchange. You're no longer reacting emotionally, you're investigating. It breaks the script. Passive aggressors expect discomfort, not challenge. When you calmly ask for clarification, you derail their social strategy. It creates accountability. Now the burden is on them to explain what they meant. You've transferred the tension back where it belongs. It reveals intent. Sometimes, people genuinely misspeak or don't realize the impact of their words. By asking the question, you give them a chance to reflect or expose their true intentions. How to use it? Real-world scenarios. Let's look at a few real-life examples of how this might play out. Scenario 1. The snide coworker. You're in a team meeting. You present your idea. A colleague chuckles and says, "That's ambitious." You feel the dig. Everyone does. But instead of laughing it off or getting defensive, you turn to them and calmly ask, "What did you mean by that?" They pause. The room gets quiet. Now they have to explain. Do they double down or backtrack? Either way, you're no longer the target. You've taken control. Scenario 2. The undermining friend. You're out with friends. You mention something you're proud of, maybe a fitness goal, a promotion, or a personal achievement. A friend smirks and says, "Look at you getting all grown up." You don't laugh. You smile, look at them, and say, "What did you mean by that?" Now the joke's on them. Scenario 3. The family member with a knife behind the smile. At a family gathering, someone says, "You've gained confidence." Maybe too much. Rather than absorb the insult, you simply say, "What did you mean by that?" It's not confrontational. It's curious. But it forces clarity. And clarity is often the last thing a passive aggressor wants. Common reactions you might get and how to respond. 1. I was just joking. This is the standard escape route. Your calm response. Okay, just wanted to understand. It didn't come off that way. 2. You're being sensitive. This is an attempt to flip the script and make you question your reaction. Your reply. Maybe, but I think it's fair to ask for clarity. 3. Never mind. This is an admission without being an admission. It often signals that they've realized you're not an easy target. In every case, the goal isn't to escalate, it's to neutralize. To make them think twice before trying it again. From defense to curiosity, reclaiming your power. The brilliance of the mirror defense is that it doesn't rely on confrontation. You don't have to raise your voice or accuse anyone of anything. You're simply asking for clarity. But in doing so, you change the game. You stop being the passive recipient of disrespect and become the investigator of intent. You're not looking for a fight, you're looking for truth. And that subtle shift, from emotional reaction to calm curiosity, is where real power lives. Curiosity disarms conflict. Clarity destroys manipulation. And best of all, this tactic preserves your dignity while protecting your boundaries. Final thoughts. Holding up the mirror without breaking it. Not every situation calls for direct confrontation. Not every comment is worth dissecting. But when something lands wrong, when the words are laced with judgment, mockery, or veiled contempt, don't let it slide without thought. You don't need to argue. You don't need to accuse. All you need to do is ask, "What did you mean by that?" That's it. It's calm. It's neutral. And it's devastatingly effective. Because when you shine the light of clarity on someone else's shadow play, they're often left with nothing but their own reflection. 5th, walking away. The scariest power. What frightens people the most? It's not rage. It's not confrontation. It's not even violence. No, the most terrifying power in any room is indifference. Because rage still seeks a connection. Anger still needs your presence to ignite. Even insults and drama mean you still matter enough to provoke. But when someone walks away, calmly, silently, without a backward glance, the power shifts completely. They don't know what to do with that. They don't know how to fight someone who simply stopped caring. Cold-face indifference is scarier than aggression. When someone disrespects you, belittles you, mocks you, undercuts your worth, they expect something in return. A reaction. A protest. A plea to explain. That's the game. You give energy back. And when you do, they win because now they own your emotional state. But if you simply pause, meet their gaze without fear, and then turn and walk away, you deny them the very thing they crave: significance. That silence becomes deafening. That lack of reaction becomes a mirror. Suddenly, they're forced to confront their own emptiness with no one left to fight. Man-standing stillness is dominance. In psychology, we talk about frame control. It's not about being louder. It's not about pushing harder. It's about deciding what matters and who matters. When you walk away, you send a signal deeper than words. You no longer qualify for my energy. And the brain responds, not just theirs, but yours too. Your nervous system begins to learn a new reflex. Not to fight, but to release. That's power. Not the kind that clenches fists, but the kind that lets go. Reversing the dynamic. Here's the twist most people never see coming. The moment you walk away, they chase. Because human psychology is magnetized toward absence. What we can't control, we begin to desire. What doesn't seek us, we start to seek. You stop responding. They start wondering. You become quiet. They grow noisy. You've shifted the polarity of power without raising your voice, without proving a point. You didn't win the argument. You erased the need for it. Brain people test what stays. We've been conditioned to think that staying, enduring, explaining, tolerating makes us virtuous. But in social dynamics, staying too long without respect signals something else: permission. People don't always test your boundaries out of malice. Sometimes, they're just trying to see where the edges are. And when you never walk away, they assume there are no edges. That's how cruelty seeps in quietly with a smile. Fire the discipline to leave. Walking away isn't always dramatic. It's not storming out or slamming doors. It's not a performance. It's quiet. It's simple. It's the sentence you never say. The reply you don't send. The smile you don't return. And yet, it requires an inner discipline far stronger than aggression. Because to walk away, you must be willing to let the story end. To let them misunderstand you. To let the last word hang unanswered. That's what terrifies people. Not your anger, but your freedom. Brick self-respect is non-negotiable. Most people think respect comes from charisma, persuasion, charm. But real respect, the kind that makes people pause when you enter a room, grows from what you no longer tolerate. It grows from boundaries carved in stone. It grows from self-worth that doesn't need an audience. When you say nothing and walk, people feel it in their spine. Because it says, I will not bleed to prove I'm kind. I will not explain why I won't be disrespected. I will leave before I ever lower my standard. That is terrifying. Because it's rare. And anything rare becomes revered. Studio microphone outro. Remember this. At the end of all of this, after the laughter fades, after the tests are over, after the rooms you no longer need have emptied behind you, remember this. This isn't about tricks. It's not about games or strategies. Not about how to be an alpha or play roles in some social theater. It's about who you are when no one is watching. It's about the silent vow you make to yourself. To never again beg for the kind of respect that should have been given freely. Self-respect is the soil. Every other form of respect, friendship, admiration, desire, grows from that root. Not performance. Not perfection. But boundaries. So, if this resonated, if something in you felt this, raw and familiar, like a scar being remembered, it means you're waking up. You are beginning to value your energy, to guard your dignity, to stop asking for what you were always meant to protect. And that is the beginning of power. Stay sharp. Stay sovereign. You're listening to Shadow Mind.